Ah, there's that indicator sound again. I don't care, because I so love this car. Guys, I predict that that this video might just be one of my most popular for 2024. The reason being, it is the GWM Ora that I'm driving, which is, South Africa's cheapest electric car. Also, I know you're probably thinking like, GWM, hey now, guys, like, wowzer, have they done a job. Because they've built this from the ground up, right? They've just built this as an electric car, which is not what a lot of other manufacturers have done. They sort of based it on other cars and whatever. So like, this is just like its own show, if you will. And it is fantastic. Like, I actually think it might be one of my favorite EVs I've ever driven. And in fact, it might be one of my favorite cars of 2024. I mean, look, we're only in like Jan-Feb here, so I need to not just get ahead of myself, but So the reason I say this is the cheapest EV in South Africa, it used to be the Mini. However, this range kicks off at like 687,000 Rand. Now the equivalent sort of to the Mini within the range also comes in a few thousand Rand cheaper than the Mini, which is at like 780 something thousand Rand. So you can own an EV for almost 100,000 Rand cheaper than a Mini. So, okay, look, this model is the GT, like ultra luxury, so it's the top of the range. So it comes in at like 830 odd thousand Rand. So obviously it's a little bit more expensive, but it has like literally everything. Now, the Ora is in fact a finalist in the Cars.co.za Consumer Awards, of which I am a judge, mind you. In fact, I judged this category. So we find out the winners near the end of Feb. So this video would have gone live and then we'll find out if it's a winner or not. Woohoo! Let's see. In the meantime though, interesting to do, because I actually did this before I did this review, is go onto New Car Spec on the Cars.co.za app, and it gives you like every detail about a car. But the compare tool app as well, then you can put like the Mini against the Ora and see everything like for like, almost. Well, exactly like for like. Pretty impressive, and what I use for all my research. Click up here somewhere and you'll get a link to the Cars.co.za app because it's awesome. So this is actually a little bit bigger than the Mini, and it's almost like a compact SUV in a way, and I find it to be very spacious. The only drawback maybe is the boot. It's really tiny, like really tiny. It doesn't have a spare wheel, but it does have a fire extinguisher. Now I put my hand there to show you how big the fire extinguisher is, because it's not a massive one, but to show you then how kind of small the boot is. So that would be a problem for some people. If you're driving around, commuting to and from work, not going to be an issue, obviously. But otherwise it does have like everything you need, like from wireless charger. It's got this panoramic sunroof, which I don't love, but people do, so good on them for having one. Oh, actually, safest car, pretty much one of the safest cars in South Africa. It's got a 5-star Euro NCAP rating, which is an amazing thing to know, because a lot of people ask me about the safety ratings, and this car is rated 5 stars, okay? One of the safety features that I really like, which I've never actually seen before, on your digital instrumental cluster here in front of you, it shows you all the cars that are like in front of you and on the side and whatever, which is really handy. So that when you're on the highway and you've got like 2 lanes and the person in front of you is driving like, those, and you want to go around them, but you can't sometimes see if there's a car directly in front of them. So you don't know whether you should take that gap in a way. This shows you, because you can see that like there's 3 cars in a row or 10 cars in a row, and you're like, oh, well, no point. So it's a really cool little feature that I don't see many people speaking about, but maybe, I don't know. What am I missing? But I love it. Now, some of the things are a bit intrusive. I actually just had that GWMP series before last week, and I said the same thing. It's like the lane centering and lane keeping, like, it's irritating as hell. So I go in and I switch it off. The problem is it defaults every time the car goes off to being at its like most problematic. So that sucks. The other thing is, so with an electric car, often it's got that sort of regenerative braking and stuff, and if you put your foot down or if you take your foot off the accelerator, it kind of, it makes it a little bit, which I don't like. So I also go and I turn that down to like its lightest thing, which is not great, because then I'm gonna not save as much energy or whatever. So talking about a range and stuff, this has a range of about 400 kilometers. I got it at about 300 odd, and I've been driving every day all over, and I'm now I've probably used about 90 Ks, and I haven't charged it once, which I kind of like, because I don't want to have to do that all the time, but it does become a way of life, right? Like, you're going to have your charging station set up at home and whatever, you plug it in overnight, no problem. So there's one or two things that have gotten me a little bit confused. So this car, pretty cool. I think the Volvo C40 Recharge does the same thing. As you get in, it's ready to go. You don't have to turn the car on or anything. You just put it into gear and off you go. Turning it off, however, okay, so you're supposed to just get out, you press it into park, get out and lock it, and then, but sometimes one forgets maybe to lock it, okay? So now I've come back and the car's on. So it is also not the on-off button down here, which are like very mini-esque buttons. That is for the aircon, okay? But which I've done, that I've turned that off and I've gone, oh, amazing, car's off, because then now it's gone. No, it is not, okay? It is not just the aircon's off. But this side, there's a little button with like an electric bolt. I use that, and that turns it off. So then I just feel better about myself, so that if I leave, it's fine. But that's just like a silly little thing. Guys, I'm so in love with this car. I can't even tell you. But I was also thinking, because I found out recently, like, insuring an EV to an ICE model is actually pretty much the same. I always thought, like, to have an EV, now you got the cheapest EV in South Africa, now to insure it's going to cost you a bomb. Not so. So like, if you've now spent 800 odd thousand rand on this car, it's going to be the same as if you spent 800 odd thousand rand on an ICE model. But what is interesting, okay? So from a battery point of view, it is completely covered if like you drive into another car and it gets damaged, or if Mother Nature does something to your car and buggers up the battery, okay? You are covered. But standard insurance won't necessarily cover the battery if, for instance, there's a power surge or power outage or something and it does something to the battery, and obviously like natural like wear and tear or whatever. But here's where it gets interesting, because you need to know this. If you're insuring an EV, make sure you go through those terms and conditions and make sure you know what is covered, especially with the battery. You will be covered if there is one huge power surge that causes damage to all of your plugs and appliances, and your EV, of course. But the constant wear and tear that load shedding causes and subsequent damaging of your battery, well, that's not covered. And the other thing to consider, which I hadn't thought of, is the charging equipment. Do you know, not just like the pipe, the cord, but like the docking station, charging station. Do you know, you want to make sure that that's all covered if something happens, do you know? And then the other thing is roadside assistance. Now, you want to make sure that you're covered for instance, you do run out of battery and you need to get towed to the nearest charging station. I doubt you want to be paying for that out of pocket. Very interesting little tidbits that I've just given you. Go to the link in the description or up here, because that will give you all the answers. And you can get a quick quote on an EV. 90 seconds, baby. Boom. Only one problem with the screen is, I always wish there were just big normal buttons and not just everything on a touch screen. Because the climate control, okay, you got to press a button to get into it, right? Then when you're into it, you've got to find the fan, which is like the teeniest, tiniest little thing. And then you like, duck, 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 and then I either like put it, I'm like, or I turn it off or whatever. It's a real pain. And I wish that either the sort of graphics were bigger for that, or there was just a button for it, not in the touchscreen. But that I could say for just about every manufacturer. So this has a 63 kilowatt hour battery. You're getting 126 kilowatts of power, 250 newton meters of torque. It's got that instant acceleration. Woohoo! So fun. It is just like such a fab car. I can't put the aircon back on. I turned it off while I was trying to explain to you guys. Oh, okay, for Trina. Chill. Yeah, guys, I just find this to be a wonderful addition to the electric vehicle market. And okay. To be fair, I was distracted there. Good lesson. Thank you, Ora. Guys, do you know that in other countries or in other parts of the world, this is actually called a funky cat or a super cat? I feel like we missed an opportunity there. Hey, that's fun. We went with Ora. So did Australia. That's all right. But it would have been fun if it was called a funky cat. What do you drive? A funky cat, man. But yeah, I just think, like, I'm not into EVs. I don't think that we're there yet. Certainly, I could never afford one. Most people can't. I would want the setup at home as well. I'd need a second car because I like to travel. I'd need a bigger car because I like to travel. But I don't know if I think if someone handed me one of these because I couldn't afford one myself, I would be over the moon. I would love it for my everyday driving. It's fantastic.